3 years ago, I made a video that would become one of the most viewed on the channel, and that is NHL players who became stars after changing teams. And when I was looking for older videos I had made that I could potentially do a sequel to or make a part 2 of, that video fits the bill because there is a lot more examples that have happened over the past 3 years since I posted that video of players changing teams and breaking out. I have a list of 8 players that I want to go over today, but as always, I do want to hear your guys' thoughts, so if there's any players that you can think of that I don't mention in this video, be sure to let me know who those players are down below in the comments, and maybe at some point in the future I could make a part 3, just not wait 3 years this time. And if this is your first time checking out the channel and you want more NHL content just like this all year long, be sure to hit that subscribe button. We're trying to hit 100,000 in 2023, so every subscription counts. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get things started with the first player, and I know the timing isn't great on this because of how the season has gone for this player and his team, but JT Miller, certainly one of the more polarizing stars in the league, and it's really only became that way this year. However, JT Miller definitely fits the mold of the kind of players we're focusing on in this video. His previous career high before being dealt to the Vancouver Canucks was 56 points. He did that in 2016-17 as a member of the New York Rangers, the team he was drafted by. He would spend 2 seasons with the Tampa Bay Lightning in between his time in New York and Vancouver before being traded to the Canucks on June 22nd of 2019. And it didn't take long for JT Miller to take that next step after the trade to the Canucks, as in his first season with the team in 1920, he put up a career-high 27 goals and 72 points in just 69 games. Miller would then go on to set new career highs last season, finishing with 32 goals and 99 points in 80 games, 1 point shy of the century mark. Say what you want about the defensive side of his game, say what you want about his effort level and his contract extension that doesn't kick in until next season, but I don't think anybody expected Miller to go from being the complimentary middle six player that he was in New York and in Tampa Bay to being the kind of guy in Vancouver who could push 100 points in a single season. The next player I have on my list is defenseman Vince Dunn of the Seattle Kraken, a former second-round pick by the Blues back in 2015. He was scooped up by the Seattle Kraken in the expansion draft in the summer of 2021. Obviously, when the Golden Knights came into the NHL back in 2017, there was a ton of examples of players making the most of their opportunity to go to an expansion team, William Karlsson being the biggest example of that. He was actually kind of my inspiration for making the video like this 3 years ago. And although Vince Dunn's emergence in Seattle is not quite as random as William Karlsson's was, it's still really impressive what he's been able to do with this new opportunity. This season especially, Vince Dunn has taken his game to a whole other level, and I would say he's playing like a legit top 20 defender in the league. He already has set a new career high in points with 36 in just 47 games. Since the calendar has turned over to 2023, Vince Dunn is actually tied with Rasmus Dahlin for the most points scored by a defenseman with 17. His defensive numbers hold up well. He's really the anchor of that great Seattle defense, and although even going back to his time in St. Louis, everybody knew Vince Dunn had the potential to be a really solid two-way top 4 defenseman, I don't think there was too many people expecting Vince Dunn to have a breakout season like this and put up these kinds of results playing in such a big role. He's averaging close to 24 minutes of ice time per game. Moving along now to the next player on the list, we have the one and only goaltender we're going to talk about in this video, Linus Ullmark of the Boston Bruins. Now, before getting to Boston, Linus Ullmark was definitely a good starter. He put together 2 really strong seasons in his final 2 years on pretty bad Buffalo teams before signing a 4-year, $20 million deal with the Bruins as a free agent in the summer of 2021. His first season as a member of the Bruins last year went about how you would expect. He was solid, a .917 save percentage for the second consecutive season, was 26-10-2, but this season he's putting up video game-like numbers. It's some of the most ridiculous numbers we've seen a goaltender put up in a very, very long time. I figured it would be cruel not to include Ullmark in this video. So far through 31 games, Linus Ullmark has a record of 25-3-1, a 1.86 goals against average, and a .937 save percentage. And he's also 4th in the entire NHL in goals saved above expected, currently sitting at 23.21. The only goaltenders in the league with a higher GSA-X than Ullmark are Connor Hellebuck, UC Saros, and Ilya Sorokin. That's some pretty good company. It's really hard to imagine the NHL giving the Vezina to any other goaltender other than Ullmark if Ullmark can finish the season with numbers even close to the ones he has right now. Continuing on now, the next player on the list, we have Stanley Cup champion Valeri Nichushkin, a 10th overall pick by the Dallas Stars back in 2013, and pretty much just 3 years after being drafted, he was viewed as a pretty massive bust. Nichushkin and the Stars were unable to come to an agreement on a contract prior to the 2016-17 season, so Nichushkin would return to the KHL for 2 years, before then returning to the Dallas Stars prior to the 2018-19 season, signing a 2-year $5.9 million deal, and in the first year of that contract, Nichushkin would post a whopping 0 goals in 57 games. The Stars would then buy out the final year of Nichushkin's contract, making him a UFA, where he would then sign a 1-year deal with the Avalanche, and the rest is history. Nichushkin's first 2 seasons as a member of the Avalanche went really well. He carved out a nice role for himself in the bottom 6, killing penalties, had fantastic underlying numbers. He would then be given a much bigger role last season, and he exploded, scoring a career-high 25 goals and 52 points in 62 games. He was one of the Avalanche's most important players in their run to the Stanley Cup, got himself a nice big payday in the offseason, and this season he's picked up where he's left off. Although he has struggled to stay healthy, he's got 18 points in 20 games, and a fun little stat, the Avs record with Nichushkin in the lineup this season is 15-3-2. Their record without Nichushkin in the lineup, 11-15-1. That right there tells you just how important of a piece he is for the Avalanche. Moving on now to the next player on the list, this is a given. This guy has really became a massive story over the past 2 seasons, and that is Tage Thompson of the Buffalo Sabres. A former first-round pick, 26th overall by the Blues back in 2016, he came to the Buffalo Sabres as part of the Ryan O'Reilly trade. Truly one of the most insane career turnarounds in recent memory. I may even go as far as saying of all time. Up until last season, pretty much, Tage Thompson was a guy who was viewed as somebody who may never even be anything more than just like a bottom 6 fringe NHLer. To go from that and not really showing any signs of becoming anything more than that to then now being one of the most dominant offensive forces in the NHL, one of the most unique players the league has ever seen, it's remarkable. And even after scoring 38 goals last season in 78 games, he still had his doubters. Was that season just going to be a flash in the pan? I don't think anybody could have expected him to get even better. He has 68 points already this year in just 48 games. The only players in the league with more points than Tage Thompson, David Pastrnak, Nikita Kucherov, Leon Draisaitl, and Connor McDavid. The Buffalo Sabres are right in the thick of the playoff hunt right now, just 2 points back of the Penguins for that second wildcard spot. If they get into the playoffs, I feel like Tage Thompson is somebody who definitely deserves some real Hart Trophy consideration. Does that mean I think he should win or is going to win it over somebody like Connor McDavid? Of course not. But just the fact he's even in that conversation after how the first 5-6 years of his career went is crazy. And to think this is the same guy that, according to Elliot Friedman, the Buffalo Sabres almost traded for a 5th-round pick a couple of seasons ago when he was struggling. Just imagine how different things could look right now. Speaking of 5th-round picks, the next player we have on the list is Chandler Stevenson, centerman for the Vegas Golden Knights. A 5th-round pick is all it took for Vegas to pry Stevenson out of Washington back in December of 2019. Sort of a nothing trade at the time, not something that was looked at as a big addition for the Golden Knights. Stevenson, prior to heading to Vegas, was nothing more than just a bottom 6 defensive centerman, not somebody who would put up big offensive numbers at all. However, looking back at it, getting traded to Vegas was the best thing that could have happened to Chandler Stevenson, as he's just continued to get better with the Golden Knights year after year. His points per game has continued to rise, had a career high 64 last season in 79 games, and this season on a team that has players like Jack Eichel, Mark Stone, Chandler Stevenson leads the Knights in scoring with 43 points. In my opinion, one of the league's most underrated centermen, and for a team like Vegas who has traded away so many big future assets throughout their team's history so far, one of their best additions has turned out to be someone they traded a 5th-round pick for. Who would have thought? Moving along now to the next player on the list. This is actually a player that I missed in the video I made 3 years ago, but hey, better late than never. Mika Zibanejad of the New York Rangers. A former 6th overall pick by the Ottawa Senators back in 2011, he was dealt to the New York Rangers on July 18th of 2016, along with a 2nd-round pick in exchange for Derek Brassard and a 7th, a deal the Ottawa Senators made because they were wanting to contend for a Stanley Cup in 2017, and they wanted the more veteran centerman, a guy like Derek Brassard, and they obviously did contend for a Stanley Cup. They made it all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals. They were 1 goal away from the Stanley Cup Finals, so right away the trade didn't look bad, but man, looking back at that deal now, honestly, probably one of the worst trades of the last decade, as Mika Zibanejad has really developed into a franchise center with the New York Rangers, one of the league's league's most explosive offensive talent. It feels like when he has a good game, he's just unstoppable and he puts up, 4 or 5, sometimes even 6 points. He was one of the league's very best players in 2019-20, where he scored 41 goals in just 57 games. Just imagine if that was a full 82-game season. What kind of numbers could Zibanejad have put up? And now for the final player of today's video, we have Carter Verhaeghe of the Florida Panthers, a former third-round pick by the Toronto Maple Leafs back in 2013. He was sent to the Islanders from the Maple Leafs as part of the Michael Grabner trade. The Islanders would then trade Verhaeghe to the Tampa Bay Lightning in July of 2017 in exchange for goaltender Kristers Gudlevskis. Verhaeghe would play his first NHL season with the Lightning in 2019-20, where he put up 13 points in 52 games, played a very limited role, only got in 8 playoff games for them, but still got his name on the Stanley Cup. The Lightning would decide not to give a qualifying offer to Verhaeghe, making him a UFA, where he would then go and sign with the division rival Florida Panthers. And in a much bigger role with the Florida Panthers, being given the opportunity to really showcase his abilities, he's became a really important top 6 contributor for them. He's having the best season of his career this season, already a career high 25 goals in just 49 games, likely going to score 35 plus if he stays healthy. Who would have thought that the player he was in Tampa Bay, not even an everyday player in their lineup, would turn into be the kind of goal scorer that he is today? And not to mention, he's on a very good value deal for the Panthers, signed at about $4.1 million through 2025. So that is going to wrap up today's video, going over 8 NHL players who became stars after changing teams. And yes, I know I am using the term star a little bit loosely in some of these cases, but like I said at the beginning of the video, I want to know your guys' thoughts. So if there's anybody that you can think of that I didn't mention today, be sure to let me know who those players are down below in the comments. If you guys enjoyed this video and you want to see more content like this, then be sure to drop a like. That is the best way to show your support. And most importantly, if this was your first time checking out the channel and you want more NHL content just like this all season long, be sure to hit that subscribe button, and I will talk to you all soon.